Okay, now let's see here.
Oh, I am seeing you.
Yep. No, I just need to see if there's a way to turn off my outgoing video. I can turn off incoming video, but let me just see if I can turn off mine.
You have the microphone, the little camera, and the red thing. If you hit the one of the camera in the middle, will turn you off.
The camera in the middle will turn me off. Okay.
There's
Yep.
a little microphone and then a
Yep.
camera.
Yep.
And then
Yep. I see it. Okay. Let's see if this helps improve it in any way.
Okay. Now I see you and the 45-year-old David.
Yep. There you go. It's been a while. It's been a while. Well, I think that the overarching thing on this is that they're just trying to get people excited for you coming to speak at Dallas PPA in January. The little bit that I know is that maybe it's going to be more of a QA type session with you versus, is that correct, versus an exact program description where you're teaching or lecturing?
James said he preferred to do more Q&A, I believe.
Okay. So we certainly...
Yeah, I've never done a full presentation, and I've been thinking about maybe putting together a PowerPoint thing, but I've never done one. So I'm going to try to do that and then practice it and see if I feel confident with it. But if not, I may ask to do it because, like I say, unlike you guys, I'm very interested in getting in front of a large group and speaking.
Sure. When you think about what it is that you would like to talk about, obviously, we can shape this conversation any way we want. What is it that you think that you would want to speak to a group of photographers about?
Well, every photo is a story. And in Hollywood, when production, we start with a script, which is the story. And then once you have a script, it's all about making that script come to life. And to do that, you need a cast, you need a set, you need location, props, color palette, all the little details that go into it. So when I approach taking a photograph, I approach it the way I would approach making a film, with all of these details in mind and attacking them one by one, sometimes by myself, sometimes with experts like a hair and makeup person or a wardrobe person or a set person, because I alone don't know everything. But if I lean on my other fellow artists, we can put together a great picture.
Now, it's my understanding that there is a term in TV called cast contingent. Do you find that in the photography world that you would operate in a similar way, that you would only go forward with a photograph or an idea if you had the proper person that you were casting in order to be able to carry it, or do you find that there's more flexibility?
Ideally, if you can't find the perfect person, you're just going to be wasting your time.
Yep.
And you're going to be saying that it's not going to. You're going to convince yourself at some point in the production or in the shoot that it's working, because you're so used to something that's not working that when something almost works, you say, "Oh, this is great. It's going to be great." Then when you get back at home and you look at the shots, you realize, no, it sucks because it's the wrong person. And I convinced myself it was better than it was, but when you look at it in the cold light of day, you say, no, it was wrong.
I love it. So when I think about you and your overarching career, obviously born in New York and went through, I believe you went to school then in Denver. You wound up starting off a bit more on the writing side of things. And I've read in some of your interviews that in TV specifically, the writer really is the one with all the power. You talk about it in terms of being the executive producer, who in a sense is like the head writer. What is it that you feel translates between the creative process of going through and writing up an idea for a TV script in a similar way to concepting a photo shoot?
Let's start with story. It's all about the story. So what story am I trying to tell? I'll give you an example. I'm doing a project now of imagining all the different versions of myself that could be turned out. And I'm going to do one big one that includes all of the different characters. There's like 6 versions of me I could have taken. One photo, it's all of that, but I've been spending the last few weeks on each individual version. Like there was one of me that could have been a golf professional, one of me that could have been a priest, a soldier. And I'm writing biographies of each of these characters, of versions of me. And then I'm going to shoot an environmental portrait of me as a priest, as a soldier, at my age, as a golf professional. And each of these people turned out different than I am. Some are successful, some are not. There's a high-powered lawyer. There's the golf professional who's anything but successful. He's on a driving range. So I think first of, what's the story of that character of me? What's the location I want to shoot? And what's the circumstance of his life involved, the wardrobe, the hair, the makeup, the location, for each of these different people. And each one I want to have be different. So I'm telling a story in my environmental portrait of the life this person lived as one person versus the other people that we'll see.
Sure. So there's obviously natural parallels there, but I think what I hear you saying is to have a defined vision and watch it grow. That most people might start by just shooting first, and as you say, you look at it later and you convince yourself in the moment that it's going to be good enough, and you realize later that it wasn't good enough because you didn't start from a solid foundation.
I think you have to start from the script, and the script is before you go to shoot anything, you're going to think about what is it I want to shoot, what's tell, what do I need to tell that. Otherwise, you just wing it. And sometimes when you wing it, you get something that's pretty cool. But if you really prepare and think about it ahead of time, you can have a much better result.
And now if I was a portrait photographer in Dallas, Texas, or a wedding photographer or anything like that, I may have to answer to a client, somebody who has an idea that maybe isn't mine. In a similar way, as a TV director, from what I've read, you're walking into a situation where there's already a script in place, and you're now tasked with bringing that to reality. But there are many different directors that will work on that show. So what have you learned from the process of starting off as a writer, becoming a director, and then also being a producer and executive producer about what it's like to create within the structure of serving somebody else?
Rule number one, other people have great ideas too. It's very, you think that only you have the right idea and the right vision. And a lot of times that's built out of insecurity. You don't want to open up yourself to other people's ideas because you might not know how to do them. But it's all about collaboration, and you have to be open to other people's ideas and try it. I'll get a script and I'll see a scene and I manage it one way. And you do the rehearsal, and the actor's an artist too, and they're going to have their own interpretation, and they'll do a performance. And oftentimes it's not at all what I imagined, but it's as good or better. So that's what we go with. Other times it's not, so you have to correct them. There are some shows you go into as a director that have a very set visual style. If you remember Mad Men, it was a very 50s sort of look, camera never moved. And every director who comes in has to shoot along those styles. Yep. So when you come in, you know that that's what you're going to have to do. That's no different than being told by your client shot to be or by your art director what they're looking for. Other shows you go in and you can do whatever you want as long as you tell the story properly. And that's the shows I tend to go to. The more sci-fi shows like I do in Supernatural, Smallville, you get a great script with a lot of action, a lot of visual effects, and they depend on you to bring the visual style to life. So I tend to want to do those more, but you have to be able to do both. I've done both in my career, and I think as a photographer, you have to be able to do the same thing. You either can create your own palette and do whatever you want, and other times if you have rules that you need to follow, then you have to follow them, but still put your artistic integrity into it.
Sure, absolutely. When I looked through your body of work, and you touched on the fact that you've done some different sci-fi things, I'm also I keep coming back to that moment where you were working for Spelling, and you were able to go to them and be able to ask if you could take some time off in order to be able to go direct. I believe it was one of the Star Treks, and they said yes. And on some level, all business is the business of relationships. Will you be able to share anything along those lines when you're in Dallas about what it's like to have a sustainable career of just working with people, regardless of whether you're working in TV and movies, or if you're just a mom and pop shop trying to keep your clients happy? Well,
in my career, everyone's a freelancer, and I've been lucky enough to have long-term relationships. I worked on and off for Spelling for 26 years. As a writer and producer and a director and a student. And that's because I got along with them and they liked what I did, and you have to give it and take time, and you're usually in the position of being is giving and taking as opposed to the one that's the boss. They're the boss, I have to do what they like to keep getting hired.
Yep.
At Star Trek, I was involved the very first season, and I did 2 episodes the first season, and I ended up being there for all 18 seasons of the first instead of 4, Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise. And I would come and go as I was available, working in a project, a long-term relationship where we get along each other. I worked on shows where one episode would never come back. I did Charm for 8 years. So it's a matter of getting in sync with the right people and then maintaining that relationship. And that involves, when you haven't worked with them for a year or two, call them, say hello, keep talking, and then they'll think about you when they have an opening. And so long-term relationships are based on pleasing them with what you're doing, but then you go away doing other things. You got to keep in touch, let them know what you're doing, let them know that you like working for them so they call you back and you can keep working.
When I look at your photography, I see that you definitely enjoy shooting landscapes and things along those lines. Your website is jameslconway.com, and you can go on there and click on photos, and it will take you to the portfolio. A lot of the stuff in terms of being scenic landscapes and stuff like that, what would you say is the common theme there? Do you think it's about like isolating different parts of the scenery? I don't see your work as always being more of the wide angle. It seems to isolate different things, so that's where your eye seems to look towards. What would you say that you're discovering about your landscape photography as you're continuing to do this?
I'm trying to find a story in every shot, something iconic if we can. But every photo wants to leave you with an impression, an emotion, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm an artist, so some shots are straight out of camera, but some shots are heavily photoshopped, where I'll replace the sky or I'll change a mountain peak. So it depends. I always say what it is I've done if I've changed the photo.
Sure. So I
go to a location and.
Sorry, it cut out for a second. So I stepped over you there. I apologize. But you were saying you always point out if you've changed something about the photo.
Yeah, if I go to a location, I'm going to be there once, and it's a sunrise, but it's a blue sky. I'm getting the beautiful light on the landscape, but the sky is terrible. I'm not going to be able to go back there, but in my mind, I envisioned a beautiful sky in my sunrise. I will put in that beautiful sky. So my image is what I imagine. And I often, because of my training as a filmmaker, where I'm also have to leave space imagination for what's going to be added, whether it's going to be the dragon or the fireball. I'm always thinking about what's in front of me and what's going to be there in the final product. So I go to a location, I look at it and I say, here's what I'm seeing, but here's what I want it to look like. And then I'll shoot the elements I need to make the final image what I want it to look like.
Sure. And there seems to be a rubber duck that loves to travel.
That's his little Easter egg because he thinks through his shots.
Well, he does think through his shots. But is the rubber duck more for your own enjoyment? Is it something that you see? Is there an overarching plan with the rubber duck? What's the story behind the rubber duck?
I was doing a 365 project for a few years.
Yep.
So I was standing in front of the mirror in the morning, brushing my teeth, wondering what I was going to shoot that day. And I looked over at the tub, and there was a little rubber duck there. So I took the duck and I put it in boiling water, and then in Photoshop I gave it a shocked, scared look.
Yep.
And that was pretty fun. So the next, I said, what's going to do with the rubber duck? The next day I put him down the disposal. I put him in a blender. So it became a project where I just challenged myself to come up with funny ideas or creative ideas, what to do with this rubber duck. And in so doing, I was honing my Photoshop skills because I never shot the rubber duck practically. It became a digital rubber duck, and I would put him into all these different situations.
Sure. I think that's great. You're always you're willing to push yourself, to challenge yourself, and you're perpetually growing. And I think that's one of the things that I deeply admire about you, and just your willingness, thirst for not just knowledge, but also be able to apply your knowledge and put it to work. And so that's it's a real testament to the man that you are.
I get better at what I do and learn more and challenge myself. There's so much to photography that I want to do that I haven't had a chance to do, and I keep pushing myself in those directions.
When I read more about things that have been just defining moments in your life, there's a reference to having one of your TV shows, perhaps it was a pilot premiere inside of a theater, but it also allowed for your family to be present, to be able to witness in that moment. And you mentioned that it will, kind of stand out to you for the rest of your life, be a significant memory. In what way do you think that it's beneficial for an artist of any type to be known by those that are closest to them? How does that benefit you, the fact that your wife perhaps understands your desire to create?
It's a big help for me because I'm gone a lot, and my wife is an actress, and so we met as I cast her in a movie, and we fell in love and got married. So she understands completely. I travel a lot, I go on location a lot, and I'm gone for weeks or months at a time, and she gets that. But inside all of us, all creators, we're creating for other people to look at what we do. We hate to admit, but we do want those likes. We do want people to look at it. We do want a great picture. If we just did all the stuff in a vacuum without any kind of feedback, I'm not sure how much we'd ultimately get from it. So it's nice to have a partner and family who understands. And well, she'll also be honest when I do something with Photoshop. She'll tell me when it's too much or if it's not enough. She's pretty honest when it comes to her criticism.
I've never experienced this in my own family's life. It happens all the time.
They're good mirrors.
Yep, we are good mirrors, and we can either refine each other or we can hurt each other. And so hopefully we don't have too many scars, and those scars that we have aren't too deep. What excites you about coming to Dallas PPA? What do you know about the Dallas PPA, or what have you heard? What made you inclined to say yes? Besides the fact that probably David Edmondson said please.
I've never. First of all, the PPA. I'm very impressed with the gathering of all these professional photographers from a wide range of photographic styles and techniques, and I'm looking forward to meeting them and learning as much as I can from them as I give you the knowledge I've got from my experience. Just watching you two work blows me away, and the quality of it. And I learned so much from my weekend with you, and then from watching the work that you post and from the website that the classes I had signed up for. And there's a lot that I can contribute, but there's so much more I can learn. So that's one of the things I'm excited about, is meeting new people and learning what I can from them.
Well, things that are nice about the Dallas PPA Guild is it's very warm and welcoming. It's the largest of all the local guilds, and we generally, what would you say, have about 125 people that'll be there. And we always joke, if you were coming as a photographer, we would say don't come in with your basic stuff, because these people are all well versed in a lot of the basics. It's a very intelligent crowd, and but I think in your case they're going to be so eager to be able to hear something that's the cousin to photography from that filmmaking and TV side of things. But the fact that you're also doing photography and that you are a photographer will be a real connecting point for them. And so I think, would you agree, Dad, that when it comes to the time for the Q&A portion, I think we're going to have some great questions coming to you, and look forward to some fantastic answers.
That's good. This Q&A is good. And I can also bring and show, for example, I don't know if you've seen all the images I did from the Fractured series about divorce.
Yes. Well, I have. In fact, I'm looking at it right now, and I was going to perhaps bring that up with you, or maybe save it for you for when you were here. But if you'd like to talk about it now, that'd be great.
Well, when I was 14, my parents got divorced, and it was very emotional. Later. And then I was at a workshop with St. Harvey, who was a fantastic fine art photographer, and it was about finding a personal project. And after stumbling through a few false starts, I realized the effect that divorce had on me, and divorce has on so many other people. And so after the workshop, I put together, I went and cast the people in that. Those are people that I cast, the mother, father, daughter, son. And I plotted out the shots based on things in my life. Overhearing my parents argue, imagining my father driving away. I'm continuing to shoot things for this, but these are sort of iconic moments in my mind about the divorce. And I had a couple of friends help me, and I had the cast come to the house, and we shot my house, and I shot pieces of it over about 2 months trying to put it together. And there's many more images than the ones that are up on that website, but those are the best that sort of tell the story. But for me, it was an interesting experience because I was telling a really personal story about something in my life, and it was very cathartic. I mean, I really enjoyed doing it. If I was to do it again, I think in much big cinematic ways. I would like bigger images, much more complicated images are pretty simple. And that's what I'm trying to do with my new photography. But the emotion that I captured there, I felt good about, and the honesty of how I felt and the photos I took was really a wonderful experience.
Indeed, it definitely, when you look at it, you can see how you conceived each moment almost as if you were shooting a TV show or storyboarding right through it. So yes. The narrative is very well told, and then there's obviously not just the introduction of conflict, but then there's mystery left at the end in the way that the series is here. It's just on the long-term effects of what it's like to be a child, starting off in almost a sense of innocence, being a voyeur looking on, and then having to deal with or respond to the emotions that they're feeling inside. And as a child of divorce myself, I have empathy for what you've been through. Yeah.
And then what's interesting too is when I would conceive of the shots, I did a test shoot of each one with me as the mother, for example, sitting at the edge of the bed, and I was testing the lighting. And so I pre-shot in days before I actually every shot in there with me, just to make sure the lighting was right, so that when they came, I could go through it very quickly. And I know from working with you guys that you do the similar thing. You sort of pre-lit thoughts, so when the actors get there and the models get there, you can move quickly.
It's so much easier, I think.
Then you can concentrate on getting the shot right.
Yep.
And the other thing that's difficult, which it between and being a director, for example, is when you're a director, someone else is running the camera. You're just sitting there at the monitor looking and watching. So all your focus is on the image itself and the honesty that's coming through. But when you're the photographer, you're looking through the camera, so you're worrying about the frame. What's up my bottom? Is everything right? Is everything going good? Is the focus right? So all that stuff is going in your brain, as well as you're trying to judge performance and emotion. Much more difficult for photographers than it is for directors.
That might even be an interesting aspect to explore when you are here in Dallas, of what does it mean to judge an emotional performance? Because as you say, as a director, you're able to really fixate on that, and perhaps you'll have some wisdom to be able to bring about knowing when is the emotion right, or when are they emoting enough, and then perhaps techniques, approaches, whatever it is, whispering to somebody or talking slower to them, those kind of things to help get them into that right headspace.
Yeah, that is very important. And one thing that I always try to do is get to know the actor beforehand, spend half an hour just chatting and talking about the scene, talking about them, so I kind of get a sense of what they're capable of, because you never know how far you can push it. And then when you start working with them and you start taking different directions, you start how people they are. Sometimes if they can't get angry, you want them to go sad. You keep exploring the different emotions that they're feeling to try to find something that's going to work for you. And it takes time sometimes. And some people are brilliant at it. They can do it right away and they hear you. But other people need to relax into it. And you just have to be patient and find that.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for hopping on for us. And we super appreciate your time. We know you're a very busy man. And we cannot wait to have you in Dallas to be the January speaker at Dallas PPA.
Fantastic.
Awesome. I'm going to hang up now and we'll talk to you later.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Goodbye.
Bye.